in sex on the physical level, we're inviting our spouse into our private parts.
Yeah.
And then what we're talking about here is inviting our spouse into the private parts of our mind. Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a sex and intimacy coach for married couples. My mission is to help you build and maintain a sexually vibrant and emotionally intimate marriage. Join me each week as we explore principles and practical tools based on Christian values to create the passionate, joyful, and thriving marriage you're designed to have. I've been wanting to record an episode like this for a long time. I know the value of erotic literature, but I've always struggled, like, is it okay? Is it not okay? Is this something I want in my marriage? So I reached out to a really good friend of mine. Her name is Jacqlin. She is a published author. She has a master's degree in writing and also a consumer of a lot of books, a lot of romance. And I figured if anyone could have a conversation with me about this and some pointers and some ideas, she would. So I'm really excited about this episode. We're going to talk about how to write erotic stories, erotica, spicy, sexy stories for your spouse to read. I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you get a few pointers out. By the end of the episode, you will definitely get a good sense of where to start and how this can be yet another dimension of something you can do in your marriage to bring you and your spouse closer together. Now, we will end this episode with Jacqlin reading one of the spicier stories that she's written. Just know that this is more on the explicit end of things as far as this podcast goes. If you're uncomfortable with that, I will warn you so you can stop the episode there. Otherwise, please enjoy it. And thank you for, again, listening to this podcast. I hope there's value you get from this conversation I have with Jacqlin. Before we begin, just reminding you that we still have a few openings for our Get Your Marriage On cruise, sailing this October. It's a Western Caribbean cruise. You get a vacation with me and my wife and a small group as we do a deep dive on intimacy in your relationship. It's going to be great. This is ideal for couples. I would call them the good to great couples, those that already have a fairly good sex life and you just want something a little spicier, a little bit more memorable, a little bit deeper. Come sign up for this retreat. You'll find all those details at getyourmarriageon.com and click on events. Now, if you're at a part in your marriage where you would like some extra help, some little bit of coaching and counseling, we have these options available too. For a limited time, you can try our program for free for 30 days. You go to getyourmarriageon.com, click on program, and you can enroll there and see all those great details. It's an easy and very affordable and effective way to work with me and my team. Also, you get access to our amazing course too. All right, now let's talk about how to write erotic stories for your spouse. So Jacqlin, if I can be kind of vulnerable, I've never written something erotic for my wife.
Okay.
I'm kind of nervous to try. I kind of want to because I hear about like how sometimes a romantic story or a spicy story can get women in the mood. And
Yeah.
I like that idea. But I just don't know where to start. And is it even okay for me to write things like that? That's really where I am. And I know you have a lot of writing experience. You've studied this and you're a friend. So I thought I'd reach out to you and ask for some help.
There are a lot of elements to that question where I'm like, okay, ping, 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 ping. We could talk
Uh-huh.
about like 8 different things in that one question. But okay, let's go with you really want to get started writing spicy romance for your spouse, but you don't know where to start. I think, like, I've never written spicy romance specifically for my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you were asking that, I was like, oh, interesting. I've actually never done that. I have written erotic stories. I have
Uh-huh.
written spicy romance. I have written closed door romance, which is just, like no open scenes, no open sex
Uh-huh.
scenes in the story.
Uh-huh.
But I've never written anything specifically for my spouse. But when I think of why, I think of it as a very like such a vulnerable thing that almost more vulnerable than sex itself.
Oh yeah, how so?
Because I think that there's an element to it that maybe you don't experience when you're having sex. Like when you're reading a story that, so let's say I write a story for him and he's reading it. there's so
Uh-huh.
much more to it than just the physical part
Uh-huh.
of having sex
Mhm.
that I think is something that I struggle with, maybe. Like, sex is such a physical thing that I
Mhm.
sometimes wonder if I let myself feel that vulnerability that comes along with it, but writing about it, you can't write an erotic story, especially one, let's say your character's, I guess I'm assuming you don't have to write it this way, but
Uh-huh.
I would assume the characters would be based off of you, like you and
Yeah.
your partner.
Mhm.
And a lot of the writing is internal dialogue, internal
Mm.
experience, and internal feeling. And I think that that portion specifically, like intimacy-wise, is really hard. Like, it's really hard for me personally to express. And I think a lot of people probably feel very similar. I think that's why a lot of people probably struggle with sex to begin with, is because it is such an intimate experience. And then
Mhm.
writing about it, you really have to get into the inside, like, glimpse and picture of what you're experiencing and what you're feeling. And sometimes that can be very, very scary for like somebody else to experience that intimate moment, even with your partner. And that is a really, like, such a good question. So I'm like, why would you be so afraid of being vulnerable with the person, like your spouse, like the person you love most? Why would that be so scary?
Yeah, well, I can think of, many reasons why it'd be scary, but as we're talking, I'm thinking about, like, in sex, on the physical level, we're inviting our spouse into our private parts,
Yeah.
and then what we're talking about here is inviting our spouse into the private parts of our mind.
Yeah.
These are our private thoughts and whatever, and it's very exposing, right?
Very.
First of all, you need to get clear yourself what they are,
Yeah.
and then to let them see that. I remember a few years ago, I did an exercise that we do at our marriage retreats where we set the timer for 10 minutes and you just write, let your just without lifting your pen. And the prompt is, what would your sexuality say if it had a voice and it could speak without a filter? And
Beautiful.
I was just for 10 minutes just writing. And I was surprised what was coming out, right? Like, well, I'm interested in this and I think about this and I value that. And then sharing that with my wife was very difficult to
Yeah.
do. It's part of it can be like she can reject parts of it, and it feels so close to me, it feels like a rejection of me. So it does feel intimate in that way.
Yeah. Like sharing that innermost part of your mind. I've never thought of it that way. Of like you are sharing your private parts physically, but to also do that emotionally, I
Mhm.
think, and I think that's another aspect of it is like this the feeling of safety if I were to share this part of myself, which writing is very vulnerable. As someone
Yep.
who has written lots of things, I really
Uh-huh.
struggle having people read my stuff. I get very on edge and very anxious when people I know read what I've written, I get very anxious because it's that
It's
inner
a reflection
world.
of you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it is yeah, it can be very difficult. So, especially writing something like this, something that is so vulnerable, I can see a lot of
Mhm.
people struggling with, but I'm also wondering, like, what do you feel like the benefits were for you of writing that out? Like, for you, not just for your partner. Was there a
Yeah,
benefit for
my
you writing
motivation
that?
for that was more to, just explore my own sexuality and to understand, because I think for me, and I think a lot of people feel this way too. And at our retreats, we have filters so much for what we think and feel in the context of who's going to see this, who's going to read this, who's going to view this, so much so that we don't learn to know ourselves very well. And it's a bit of a scary exercise because what if there's something that comes up that I don't like? Well, this isn't an exercise in judgment per se. It's just giving it a voice and letting it have some breathing room and just to speak. And it doesn't mean you have to act on anything. It doesn't have to
Right.
believe everything, but just like, just see what's there. It's kind of like that closet in the house where it's all the stuff stuffed in there and it's the one you don't want to open.
Mhm.
Right? But once you open it and then you kinda take things out, and then you can, like now you can sort through it. I'm gonna keep this, I'm gonna declutter that, or whatever, reorganize this. Then you're much happier with the end result. So, I guess that was what I was hoping to get out of the exercise and understanding my own sexuality there. But
Was
I
there
haven't
anything
attempted to put anything in, like, a narrative form.
Yeah. Was there anything that surprised you, like, when you wrote?
Oh, yeah, lots of things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess some of my surprises were, like, without getting in too specific, is how much I care about certain things.
Mm, I think that's interesting. Yeah. But I think, let's see, if we were to move it back to writing this particularly for our partner, I'm kind of questioning how, if it is a struggle to open up that part of ourselves on paper, how do we overcome that in
Now,
order to
uh,
write?
yes, but Jacqueline, I know this about you. You have read, spicy stories with your
Mhm.
husband before. So how is
Yes.
this different?
That I think that was kind of, if I'm being honest, I think that was also a little uncomfortable
Oh, it's all
to, like,
vulnerable. Okay,
share
yeah.
that. Yeah, I think that in
Uh-huh.
and of itself was vulnerable because I know that he knows that I like romance and I like romantic stories.
Mhm.
I love to read, you know this. We've talked about books lots of times.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm drawn to romance. I think there's something about that bond between people that I think is unmatched.
Mhm.
I think it's one relationship that you have in your life that you 100% choose to be in, and
Mhm.
seeing the story of these characters unfold of how they choose each other, I think is
Uh-huh.
really beautiful, and so I will not read a book if there's not, it doesn't have to be all romance, but just, like,
Uh-huh.
a hint. There has to be a hint of something in
Uh-huh.
there,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and so I know my husband knows that I like these stories, and some more than others. I will read all kinds. I am not particular if it's open door, which just is sex on the page, like, you can read.
Uh-huh.
It's,
Uh-huh.
if you an open door to their bedroom experience or a closed
Mhm.
door where it's mostly just kissing, doesn't go, no
Or fade to
explicitness.
black. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Right.
or
Uh-huh.
fade to black where there's the implication,
And
and I know that he knows that I read across the board. I'm no respecter of the kind of romance, I'll read whatever, and,
uh-huh.
there are some series that I just happen to like more than others, not because they're open or closed door, but I just love the story. It's just right up my alley. There are certain genres I just really love, and I got him to kinda come into that with me to read these books, and we started one. I had already read it, but if I love it, I will reread it a bajillion times.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And, just having him, and like, at night, we would listen to the stories together as, like,
Like the
before bed.
audio? Uh-huh.
Yeah, the
Uh-huh.
audio version, and it was hard, not even necessarily the the scenes of where they're, like, undressing each other or whatever, going
Uh-huh.
at it, as you will, but even just knowing that he was, like, coming into this part of me that I don't necessarily share with, like, tons of people,
Mhm.
felt like a very vulnerable experience to just, like, "Oh, she likes this. This is, like, these
Mhm.
kinds of stories. This is something," like, it's really hard sometimes to be seen, and the person that you're married to is the person who's gonna see the most in all aspects of everything,
Yes. Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
I think you're right. I think that there's a little bit of, "Are they judging me? Are they going to reject me? Is this something that, they think is silly? Is this
Mhm.
something that they're gonna hold sacred like I hold? Is this
Yeah, right.
something that," like, just all kinds of things that I think come into play, but I have a wonderful husband, and he loves the story.
Uh-huh.
And I think even when it, especially so just the story itself obviously feels a little bit vulnerable, just kind of bringing them into a certain part of your world that maybe they don't normally come into. I
Mhm.
think I have little parts of me that I think sometimes I keep just for me. And I don't know that there's anything necessarily, like, terrible about that as long as it's, a safe thing for everybody involved, and nothing bad is happening. But
Uh,
it was just a new way for us to explore together, which was really cool. But specifically getting to, like, it was an open door romance book
uh-huh.
and gets fairly, in certain parts, can be fairly explicit.
Uh-huh.
And that in and of itself, it's kind of like when you're, like, a teenager or a young adult and you're watching a movie, like, with your parents and it gets to the sex part, or, like,
Uh-huh.
something happens on screen and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed." But you watch
Right.
it by yourself and it's fine, like, you don't, it's like, "Yeah, okay." And I think part of it specifically, even just when him and I were listening, I'm just like, "Is this okay?"
Uh-huh.
And I think that there's also a part of me when he starts, because he would start to kind of feel turned on also by this,
Uh-huh,
which was very surprising to me. I've never considered him to be a reader, which I think was a disservice to him, now that I
uh-huh,
know how much he's enjoyed reading with me. But
uh-huh, uh-huh,
also, seeing your partner be turned on by certain things, I think can also like, how are you going to handle this? Like, how do
mhm,
you take in this information? Are you going to use this and hold it dear the way that they would hold that dear? Is it something that and I sometimes feel uncomfortable, like, when I see my husband being vulnerable, like, we're reading specific parts and seeing him be
uh-huh,
turned on by it. And seeing him be vulnerable, sometimes I am almost uncomfortable as well, like, holding that for him of like, "Oh,
uh-huh,
now he's given me this gift. Can I hold this safely
uh-huh,
for him to
mhm,
oh, this is something he enjoys. This is something that is arousing for him that, maybe it is also for me too in different ways or other ways, or I don't know, but and I think that that's also something to consider as maybe we write these stories for our partner, is are
uh-huh,
we also willing to hold safe their vulnerability? And I don't know, maybe that's dumb, but I just noticed that, like, oh, he's turned on by this story or this moment. What part of it does he like?
mhm,
What part of it is arousing for him? Who is he picturing? Like, is he picturing us together? Things like that.
right, and what are the
Questions that you have.
implications of this? Does
Yeah,
this
yeah.
mean
What are the implications?
can
What does
that be
this
something
mean?
we'll right, yeah,
And
yeah.
are we mature enough to have that conversation? Which we didn't, honestly, we didn't at the time, and now that we're having this conversation, I'm like, "Well, I wonder why I didn't. I wonder why." Like, is that I just noticed a lot how the struggle for vulnerability comes up in so many ways,
Mhm,
and I think we have a really good relationship, and so I'm just in my mind, I'm like, "Surely this is something that other people struggle with," is like, are we willing to be vulnerable? Are we willing to let our partner be vulnerable? Are we
mhm,
willing to hold that safe for them? And do we feel safe enough to share that with them? And I think the more you work towards that, the easier it is to, I was gonna say gift them, a writing of something like this. But
yeah,
I don't know, maybe that is too cliche thing to say. I don't know.
that's good. You've also read to him some of the spicier things that you've written
Yeah,
before, so it's earlier you said you've never done this before for your husband, but
right.
how is it different than, like, sharing your own, like, spicier writing with him?
Well, I think there's a bit of a shield in the sense that the characters aren't us.
Gotcha,
So
right.
and which is something
So if
that
he
I
doesn't
think.
like the story, he's not rejecting you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
right, right. There's
right,
a bit of a shield there, which can
yeah,
be a really interesting tactic to try, like, if people write something for their partner or have the desire to try something like that. I think that sometimes, especially if you struggle with being vulnerable, like, if that's something that feels uncomfortable, getting too close, that's a really good shield to maybe you write characters who aren't necessarily you
mhm,
in your
uh-huh,
mind. You're
yep,
just writing
uh-huh,
total fiction, can be a good starting point for some people as you consider writing a spicy romance story or an erotic story for your partner. I almost wonder, like you were saying in your retreats that you would write, like, set a 10-minute timer. I almost wonder how much easier it would be to write an erotic story if you went in with the impression that no one would ever read it.
got it. Yeah,
If that would be another kind of safety net at
uh-huh,
first as you, like,
uh-huh,
kinda try it out, because I think it makes it easier for me to write, like, as I was writing those stories, because I wrote a few for the Intimately Us app, which I'd never done. I'd never written an erotic story ever. You were the first person to ever commission that for me, but I'd always been so curious about it. I'm like, "What would it be
uh-huh,
like? Could I do it? Could I challenge myself to do something like this?" And so, if you finally get to a point where you're like, "I would like to share this," take that leap, have that courage to, because I think that I'm gonna make an assumption that if people are listening
uh-huh,
to your podcast, that they care about their marriage
yeah,
and they
uh-huh,
love their partner and they want to. expand their relationship and they
Or they
want
wanna
to
share this
connect.
private part of them.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
wanna connect and grow together, and I
Mhm.
think that this can potentially be something to expand and connect and bring people closer together when you have the courage, even if it feels really uncomfortable, to
Yeah.
share something like this.
I think where I struggle is, okay, I wanna start, but where do I start? Like, how do I even begin? What's the first words on the page? Or do I think of a memory that I've had that I liked, or do I start with a fantasy? How do I make it so that it's compelling and, like, what things should I be considering and thinking about? That's where I struggle.
Yes. Um, if I was going to give advice on how to start something like this, I would say one of 2 things. Either set a timer for 20 minutes and
Uh-huh.
just open your Word document or your Google Doc or whatever and just write, like, whatever comes to your mind. I
Hmm.
think that can be really powerful. Just like, "Okay, I'm just going to write something, I'm gonna" you have your parameters, like, "Alright, I'm gonna write an erotic story. I have no idea where I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna start. I have no idea what I'm gonna say, and I'm just gonna sit down with my 20-minute timer, and I'm gonna start writing." That's usually how I go because
Uh-huh.
I tend to be more of what they call a pantser, which is where which I now I'm like, pun unintended,
Yeah, sure.
in
Pull
the
your pants
writing
down
world,
and see what
pantser.
happens.
Um, a pantser in writing is like, you don't really have an outline, you maybe have, like, an idea or 2 or a vibe of some kind, and
Uh-huh.
you kinda just have to sit down, and as you write and you explore through writing.
Uh-huh.
And then there's
But
a
pantser,
plotter.
though, it's flying by the seat of your pants?
Exactly,
Pantser?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, uh-huh, yeah, fly by the seat of your pants.
Alright. Uh-huh.
And then you have a plotter where people really like to have an outline and they really wanna have an idea, and they don't wanna
Mhm.
just sit down. Like, it's almost the blank page is almost too much to sit down and write.
Mm. Alright.
So, for people like that and this can go for either way, but I think starting from what you know can be really powerful, whether
Mhm.
it's an experience that you've had, an experience maybe you wish you had,
Uh-huh.
a night that it could have been an experience that maybe wasn't sexual, but was a really great night for you and your partner, and you turn it into something sexual as you
Gotcha.
write.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so you can start by, "Okay, what's a really great memory that I have? What's something I really love about my partner that I can just, like" maybe I just sit down and start writing, like, an ode to him or her. You can think of maybe some, like tropes are really big, like, some people like
Uh-huh.
certain tropes. Tropes would be like getting caught, like the fear or excitement of getting caught can be a trope.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
A
Uh-huh.
pretend like you're somebody else that
Maybe
I've read.
something with power dynamics, like
Oh, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
print. Uh-huh.
The
Right?
boss, the secretary, the pilot, the
Yep.
flight attendants. Maybe
Uh-huh.
something I don't know, this might be for the more, courageous of us. You have a fantasy that you've always
Uh-huh.
wanted to maybe explore, or maybe there's a fantasy that your partner has wanted to explore, but maybe you weren't quite there yet, but you could gift them something of that nature in a story.
Right. I can't give it to you in real life, but I can give it
Yeah,
to you in a story form.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah. That can
I
be
know
really intimate.
I know that we had talked before about that I have a much stronger disgust factor than my husband does.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm pretty sure his disgust factor is like 0.
Uh,
Which
uh-huh,
actually has been really healing in a lot of ways for
uh-huh.
me.
But I think that's, like, generally men like, think about the boys eating bugs and, like,
It's so
dirt,
true. Yeah,
right?
it's so true. Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
I'm raising 4 of those little boys, and nothing ever ceases to amaze me at how willing they are to be disgusting. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
but I was just thinking, like, if there was something that maybe he really likes or she really
Mhm,
likes that maybe is something that you struggle with could be
mhm.
a powerful thing to add into a story if you're willing.
'Cause the story form of you don't struggle with that
Yeah,
disgust in your story, right?
right. You can be whoever you want in a story. That's part of the joy of writing. If we're
Uh-huh.
getting out of like the more vulnerable part, let's think of the more exciting part of
Yeah.
being able to
Uh-huh.
write a story. Like you can
Right.
be anywhere you want to be.
Uh-huh.
So I would suggest like, okay, another way to get started if you like more of a structure is like, okay, who are my characters? Is it gonna
Mhm.
be me and my husband or me and my wife? Is it gonna be us, but portrayed in a different way? Like, maybe
Uh,
we are you have
maybe
the
we're 20
essence?
years older, or maybe we're of in a different generation or a
Yeah, yeah.
different
We
time in history. Uh-huh.
My husband and I, we started dating, and I think we were both around 18,
Uh-huh.
and I think we connected really quickly, and we fell in love really quickly, and I sometimes, like we have different experiences of that moment in our lives.
Uh-huh.
Just like upbringing, and I think just the way that men and women experience the world differently, just different experiences of that time. And for me, sometimes I hold a little bit of like shame, maybe a little. And he's like, that was like one of my favorite times of life was like when we were first dating. Like it just felt like so passionate for us. And I'm like, that might be, like, a really interesting story. Like, what
Yeah,
if
with
we could go
the
back in
maturity that you
time?
have now
Yeah,
to
go
go
with the
back
ma
and relive that. Uh-huh.
yeah, I think that that would be fascinating. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
that was a little off topic, but so who are your characters, you know? I think that's a good question to ask to help build a little structure for yourself. Where's the setting? Where is it gonna take place? Is it gonna be at home? Is it gonna be in Paris? Is it gonna be on the beach? Is it gonna be in a
Uh-huh.
tent? Like, you can be so creative and come up with such great like, oh my gosh, if we had a dream vacation, or maybe there is a dream vacation that you've been talking about that, like, I wanna go to Fiji so bad.
Uh-huh.
Bora Bora would be fantastic. We talk about it
Uh-huh.
all the time. I
Mhm.
will create trips, like, just, like, fantasy trips. I'll go look at hotels and slides just for fun
Uh-huh.
in hopes that maybe one day this will happen. So, maybe it takes place in Bora Bora in an overwater bungalow. You know, you can be really creative with where you do it. And then, like, what kind of tone do you want? Do you want it to start off really hot and steamy? Do you want it to be like a mentally or emotionally intimate moment that starts
Mhm.
you off, or an everyday situation? I tell my husband this often that some of the like greatest arousal, this is gonna okay, but like bear with me as I talk about it because I know this maybe isn't gonna it's gonna sound
Oh,
weird at
that's
first, but
here.
when I see him playing with my kids,
Yeah.
like, it's such an everyday experience, but when I see them, like, laughing together or, like, playing a game together, or, like, last night, he was making dinner with our oldest son. I had to take our youngest to hockey practice, and I was like, "You guys are in charge of dinner, so figure out something," you know, I was done for the day, and I came home, and they were, like, laughing in the kitchen, and they had made this dinner together, and it was just, like it was phenomenal. It was such a good
Mhm.
feeling. So,
Uh-huh.
for me, I think everyday experiences can be a great place to start also.
Yeah, the ordinary.
The ordinary.
It's finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. That's
I
where you
love it.
begin.
Yeah. It can also be something really exciting. Like, what is your favorite movie? You know, like, what's your favorite
Yeah,
movie?
yeah.
Maybe it's like I know my husband loves Skyfall. He's a big James
Okay.
Bond fan, big Mission
Alright.
Impossible fan. I'm like, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
maybe you're I don't know. Maybe you have some mission together and you're stuck in wherever. You know what I mean? Like you can get really creative with it. So anyway, that's where I would start. I think those are good if you need a little bit of structure, character, setting, and what kind of vibe are you looking for
Good.
as you want to write. So those can be some good structure points.
Great. Any other patterns that you've noticed of stories that you've liked, like,
Oh,
that authors
interesting.
kind of include to really kinda up the spice in it? Is it words they use? Is it themes they use? Is it
I think
risk?
that
What what kind of things, like, can I think about if I'm gonna attempt to write to my wife? And I really want it to, come from my heart. This is vulnerable, but I also want it to be spicy. I
yes.
want it to deliver a punch.
Okay. So I think there's a few elements. I'm gonna go because I'm a woman, I'm gonna go female gaze here. I think
Great.
there's a
You've
reason
got
why.
define that in case people don't know.
Okay, so
What's female gaze?
I would say, I think a lot of pornography in general is very male gaze oriented, which is very hot and heavy really quickly with very little romance, very little emotional connection, very
Yeah.
little caring or safety shown like between the characters.
Mm.
Not that I don't
Mhm.
think men value that. I do think that there are a lot of men that value that.
Mhm.
Um, but I think a more masculine thing is to just like you get straight to the point, you get hot and heavy really quickly,
Uh-huh.
and you don't show the mental emotional vulnerability because I think you can really get into a sexual experience with very little vulnerability.
Mhm.
Even if you are sharing private parts of
Right.
yourself physically, I think you
Uh-huh.
can really put a wall up, and I think that's what a lot of pornography is. Just if you're looking at it from, it's very visual, it's very quick, and it's very viewing women as I feel like I'm being so
Animals?
mean to the men.
I don't know.
And say
Like, degrade
skinny,
women
big
of
boobs, perfect skin, beautiful, like
yes, yes.
these like model
Aggressive,
type.
sexually aggressive. Uh-huh.
Yes, yes, very
Yep.
turned on to the man, very like, "Oh my
Yes.
gosh, give me more," very vocal about him. That it's all
Uh-huh.
kind of centered around the pleasure of a man.
Uh-huh.
And I think for the female gaze is there's a lot of pleasure centered around the women, and I think a lot of women are very excited in this way to have stories focused around women, number 1, because throughout time, I think women have been neglected and forgotten and pushed aside and thought of as less than for a really long time, thousands of years. And then you also have the aspect that women biologically are different in the way that they respond sexually. Men can be turned on so quickly. Not that,
Mhm.
you can't have these roles reversed. I would
Right.
say more of a feminine, maybe masculine, not necessarily man, woman, but I would say the more
Yeah.
feminine is that they need more time. They need more time to be aroused. They need more emotional connection. They need more mental connection. They need to feel more safety. They need to have more of their sexual breaks unbreaked, You need to have
Uh-huh.
some time for themselves to unwind and de-stress so that they can be more present in the moment, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of female gaze romance stories are really focused around the woman in this way, and
Mhm.
I think there's a lot to learn from that as you write a story, for you particularly since you are the man writing for his wife to have a more
Yeah.
feminine approach to it
Mhm.
as you're writing. I think even though, like, if I were to write one for my husband, I don't know that I would have, like, a full masculine style gaze. I think I would still include a lot of femininity in it and a lot of female gaze in it because I think
Mhm.
that a lot of men are neglected in that way too, that they need to be able to understand more of their emotional side and explore
Uh-huh.
more of that connection as well. I think we do men a lot of disservice in not giving them the opportunity. So let's explore not just the physical, which I think is important. I think that's a large portion of writing an erotic stories. Like obviously there's physical elements involved, but if there was like, let's just say there's 3 pages of a story, I
Uh-huh.
would say maybe only 1 page of it is physical description and the
Uh-huh.
other 2 pages, so we'll say maybe a third is physical description and 2/3 are, what am I feeling? What are the sensations I'm feeling? What am I thinking?
Mhm.
What thoughts are
Mhm.
going through my mind? What do I like? What do I not like? And voicing that as you're writing
Uh-huh. What memories
is
are coming up, what this
yeah.
means to me.
How do
Uh-huh.
you feel about the person as you're experiencing this together, you know? And also, though, I think because we can never, like, fully experience what the other person is experiencing, I just think it's intriguing to see if, like, he were to write one for me, like, what does it
Mhm.
feel like for him? Like, what sensations does he have that is different than I experience and vice versa? So, again, like, if we're talking about why would I write this? Like, how is this connecting experience? Is like, I think that's fascinating. I don't know. Maybe some people don't think that's fascinating or interesting. I think that would be interesting. But again, like, as you're kind of structuring your story, as I'm thinking of also stories that I have read, there's so much mental and emotional description in the story, which tends to lead to more of a feminine gaze. That there
Mhm.
is more than just a physical connection. there is a mental and emotional connection as well.
So the feminine gaze is a lot more about the emotion. So does it help to maybe write with maybe an end in mind of how you want the characters to feel at the end?
Interesting. I think it can be another tool to use. If you think of an experience that you had that I don't even know that it necessarily needs to be a sexual experience, but just something with your partner, an experience that you've had with them that was just like you wish you could relive it over and over and over,
Mhm,
and how you felt like at the end of that experience,
mhm,
that bringing as you write and you have that ending in mind to it can be a really helpful tool to, like, funnel everything, like, if my end goal was to feel this, like, safety net of, like,
uh-huh,
peace and comfort and love and whatever, like, those experiences are for you, which, by the way, I think would be my experience of coming home. I think that peaceful feeling, I think, is very
yeah,
meaningful to a lot of people that,
mhm,
like, unconditional loving experience or that loving
yeah.
feeling. We're getting into love songs. Um, is like the end game for so many, and
Mhm,
if you keep that in mind as you're writing, it can be a really useful tool to kind of funnel the experience into where
mhm,
you want it to go.
that's good.
But if you're thinking of feminine gaze, that women need a little bit more of feeling safe before they begin. And so a lot of writing really revolves around the relationship and it builds from that feeling of love and safety into a sexual experience. And even
Mhm,
within the sexual experience is very loving. I mean, not that it can't be passionate and rough
mhm,
or, however
uh-huh,
you want it to be, not that it
uh-huh,
can't be that, but it always has that safety net of
gotcha,
the
uh-huh.
connection together. And I think a lot of focus, especially for the male character, is on the pleasure of the woman.
Alright, let's get really practical, Jacqueline. Can you give us some, like, guidelines, like how many paragraphs, different kind of sections? Just sometimes that really helps us
Yeah.
with some scaffolding.
So, the great thing about writing is you have creative control. You can do whatever you want. You can make it
Uh-huh,
as short. If you want something, if you're new, have no idea where to go, I would say a good starting off point to keep it a nice short story. Start with 1 to 2 paragraphs where you set the stage. You have your setting and the mood of the story. Where are you? What are you doing? And yeah, getting that vibe that we had
uh-huh,
talked about earlier. What's going to be the vibe of the story here? Then you're gonna have a paragraph where you have your hook, you have your spark, you have your turning point for the story. What sets it off? We're gonna
mhm,
do that in just a single paragraph. Let's go. Then you're gonna have around 2 to 5-ish paragraphs where this is the payoff for your story. This is where you get into all of the good, juicy details.
mhm.
Pun unintended, right?
Uh-huh,
This is the crux of your story. And then you're gonna end your last paragraph, you're gonna have sort of that afterglow, the ending part. End it with a tender thought or a moment, something that feels like home
mhm.
for you
Oh,
and your
that's
partner. Yeah.
great.
And it really is, I think sometimes we make it way more complicated than it needs to be and then use that as a reason not to start and just there's a really simple scaffolding.
Any other last tips or advice on writing something erotic for your spouse to read?
I think my number one is just like go for it. Just sit down
Uh-huh,
and write something. Maybe with those boundaries that I we kind of talked about in the beginning. Also, I think with the boundary of I wouldn't put too much pressure on either party. I think if it's a boundary in real life, it's probably a boundary in writing as well. If
okay.
even if in a fictional story, if there's something your partner is really like not into or is a hard no,
Uh-huh,
I would respect that, even in a fictional story. And I think maybe before you write, but maybe before you share your story, if you do end up writing one or whatever. But what's the motivation behind wanting to write this for your partner, for your spouse? If it is like this loving, intimate connection that you can experience together, I think go for it. I think that's lovely.
mhm,
I think it's beautiful. If you want to learn more about yourself, if you want to have this new experience, if you want to spice things up, more power to you. I think that's lovely. go for it. I think if the motivation is, I want to try to convince my partner to have sex tonight and I want this way to, maybe this will be it. Maybe this
Uh-huh.
is the
Like a
whole year round.
manipulation. Uh-huh.
Yeah, maybe let's not go with the manipulation aspect. Yeah.
Nope.
So I think
That's right.
if
I
you,
could just imagine my inbox now, like, "What books does Jacqueline recommend that I
yeah,
read to my wife to turn her
right.
on tonight? Give me a list, please. I will buy them." Like, "No, no, no, you got the
No,
wrong motivation.
no, please
Don't
don't do
email
that.
me, don't ask me."
Just, I think if you like really go back to like, why do I love my spouse? Like, what do I want from this? Like, is this something that's gonna bring us closer together, or is this something that feels more selfishly motivated?
Mm, yeah,
Um, and not that you can't, I think selfishness gets a really bad rap, but I think in the instance of intimacy and sex, it's really important to make sure that you have their best interests in mind.
mhm,
Like, you know your partner probably better than most people do, and you know yourself, and really getting clear on the why behind writing the story.
uh-huh.
If that feels good to you, if it feels genuine, then go ahead and move forward. Not to say that if you aren't in the box of, "I just wanna have sex tonight and I'm trying to find the quickest way to get there," explore that more. Not that you can't write a story in the future or, that you're definitely not a terrible person by any means, but I think coming from that place of genuine love and desire is the best way always for doing things within your marriage.
Jacqueline, I'd love for you if you'd be willing to read to our listeners something that you've written to kind of button this up today.
Yeah, so this one is called Starry Night, and it's currently available in the Intimately Us app. I'll just read a little snippet for you guys.
Okay, I'm interrupting here just for a little bit. This is the part where it's going to get spicy. If you want to stop here, you're welcome to. She's going to read this story and she's going to skip the beginning part. It's a story about a husband and wife. They've been married 30 years. It's a date night. They go out into the countryside in the back of his pickup truck. They've laid sleeping bags and blankets and they're stargazing this evening and just enjoying some quiet time out in the open sky together. And this is the part where Jacqueline's going to pick up and start reading. Okay. All right. We're going to continue. Here we go.
Megan laughs, of course, sending another pulse south of the border. What is that pulse sticking into my back, Joe? Joe kisses her neck once, twice, 3 times, slow and caressing, just like he knows she likes it. Can you blame me? With a wife as sexy as you, it's a feat that I keep my hands to myself at all when I'm around you. Megan tilts her head to the side, giving him better access, and he takes full advantage. Who said anything about keeping your hands to yourself? She says. Her voice is quieter and a little more breathy than usual, making Joe smile. He's got her. Hook, line, and sinker. She bites her lower lip once Joe reaches her ear and nibbles on her earlobe. His hand slips beneath her long sleeved shirt, roaming around her stomach and gently squeezing her breasts over top her bra. How do you know exactly what to do? She breathes. Joe flips to his back, then rolls her over right on top of him. She sits up with her legs on either side. This woman straddling him is enough to make him come in his dreams, but the real thing, and with just the smallest amount of friction in the right spot, is enough to make him, oh my gosh. She tilts her hips side to side, circling him just enough to make him groan. How can she drive him crazy with something so simple? You're gonna make a mess in my pants if you keep doing that. That would be a shame, she leans down to whisper in his ear, as I prefer that mess in my mouth. Another full smile crosses Joe's lips. She did not just say that. You say the dirtiest things, he says, grabbing her neck with enough playful force to keep her face next to his. There is zero hesitation as his mouth crashes into hers. Her tongue is like honey, and he tangles his own against it to try to sap up as much of her sweetness as he can. Megan breaks away abruptly, her warm body leaving the cool night air in her absence. The sleeping bag from around her shoulders falls away, giving herself room to pull her shirt completely off. Her husband scans her bare navel and shoulders, her bra, the only hindrance from it being the picture of perfection. How did he ever get this lucky? Joe can't help himself now. He sits up to meet her, pushing each breast up to suck and bite at the tops of them. She wraps her arms around his neck, forcing even more cleavage for him to enjoy. He's so hard now it aches against the restraint of his jeans, but he's not done. Oh no, far from done with his woman's perfect tits. He reaches around, unclasping her bra and pulling the unzipped sleeping bag back over her shoulders so the night air isn't too much against her now completely bare torso. Both nipples are freed, practically begging for his mouth and tongue. Every lick, every flick, every swipe sends a sharper, deeper moan from her delicious mouth, a sound that's almost his undoing. He slows down, taking care with each side, using his free hand to slide beneath the waistband of her leggings and grasp her backside. She tries to cup his penis, but the jeans are too thick. "We need to get these off immediately," she demands, lifting her leg off of him while they both fumble for the zipper, pulling and kicking until only his boxers remain. "Get back here," Joe says, pulling at her waistband to both bring her back to him and take off her leggings at the same time. When he's finished, only a thin layer of panties are left on her. He goes back to her nipples as she grabs his penis through his underwear. "I want this huge dick in my mouth," she breathes to him. "What will you do to my pulsing dick when you get a hold of it?" Another lick of her nipple. "I'll wrap my mouth around it. Use my warm tongue." She moans even louder as he traces the edge of her lips with his fingers, freed just enough from the crotch of her panties. "Use my warm tongue to wrap around it and pull it to the back of my throat." He trails another pass with his fingers, timing a gentle circle at her clit just as he sucks in more of her breast. "Oh gosh, I need you. I need you inside of me," she gasps, her gaze burning with a wildness he can't wait to satiate. Megan pulls his boxers down, his penis springing free before she tugs her panties to the side and sinks down on him. Yes, yes, this is it. That alone is enough to end him here and now, seeing how much she wants him, needs him, but not yet. Not this time. Joe's attention is focused solely on her right now. "What do you need from me, love? Tell me," he says. "You, friction." It's all she can say, but it's all she has to say. He places the pad of his thumb right on her center, rotating gentle circles as she continues to ride his dick. "Like this?" "Yes, yes, keep doing that." He keeps a steady pace for another minute before leaning forward and flicking the tip of his tongue along her nipple. "Oh my goodness, again, please," she begs. If he has to lick her exquisite nipples, let her ride him all night long. Who is he to deny her? He would do this until morning, could do this until morning, now that their kids are grown. "Anything you want, love," he says. Just a couple minutes longer, and she squeezes around him before letting out the sweetest scream of what he can only describe as pure ecstasy. Megan's nails dig into his shoulders, and she rocks back and forth, moving around his penis exactly as her body needs while her orgasm ripples through her. It never gets old watching her. Joe could come just by the look of pure, hazy euphoria written all over her face. He could come a lot of ways when it comes to his wife. But she did say, "Now, what did I say earlier? I wanted your mess all over my mouth," she says, still a little drunk off her pleasure. Yep, he wouldn't forget a statement like that. "I can finish right here, no problem." How he hadn't finished while getting her off is a miracle in and of itself. He deserves a trophy for that one. She doesn't say anything else as she pushes off of him, his penis exposed and still dripping from her. When she wraps her mouth around him, he's ready to explode. The way Megan doesn't hesitate, ready to get him off after just being inside of her. No words. She palms his balls as she moves up and down, licking, caressing, devouring him. Usually it's his primal instinct to eat her out taking over, but watching that same instinct take over her is the hottest thing Joe's ever seen. He's on fire in the best way, and he feels the unmistakable build of his imminent orgasm. He asks, "Can I finish inside of you?" It's his favorite way to come, holding her, looking into her beautiful eyes, feeling her heat all around him. "I thought you wanted my mouth." "I know, I changed my mind." She nods. "You on top or me?" "Me," he pants. He flips her on her back carefully, pulling her panties all the way off and wasting no time before thrusting inside of her. His wife's legs wrap around him, and he stares into her eyes. Never in his wildest dreams did he think marriage would ever be this good. But 30 years with this woman have been the best years of his entire life. Raising kids with her, celebrating with her, grieving with her. He wouldn't take a second of it away. One, two, three more thrusts, and he's spilling inside of her. I love you, he breathes, still riding the waves of pleasure. I love you too, she replies, clinging to him like she'll never let go. And he's fine if she never does. That was the end.
That's a good ending.
Yeah.
Uh,
See, one of the things I love is, like, the ending of making it feel like home. I think
Yes.
I really, really love the tenderness of just, like, finding something that, like, just so loving of, like, I love you too," and she clings to him like she'll never let go, and then that
Mhm.
like, yes, it's written, but it's really his internal thought of, like, "And he's fine if she never does." Like, she never has to let go, he wants to hold on to her forever. I just think it's so, like, tender and special, and what a good writer I am.
That's really good. Well done.
Oh, man.
Oh. All right, Jacqueline, I think, we need to end the episode now. I need to go cool down after that.
Yeah.
But if people wanna follow you on Instagram, what's your handle?
Right now, you can Instagram is my main mode. I'm at author Jacqlin Guernsey. You can follow me along there. I do have books. They are not spicy, but they are romance. You can find them on Amazon.
And I've read your books, and they're excellent.
Yeah.
And
Thank
my
you.
my young adult daughter loves those books too, so they're great, great books. Good
Thank
story
you.
writing.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope that the things that we talked about today inspire you to be a little more intimate, a little bit closer, a little more vulnerable with your spouse. And remember that sex is far more than what you do with your bodies. It's sharing your heart, your spirit, your mind, all of you together and becoming one in the truest sense. I hope this episode's motivated you a little bit to try something a little bit outside your comfort zone with the purpose of strengthening your marriage. Thank you for listening again. Share this podcast with all of your married friends. Download the Intimately Us app if you don't have it yet to get access to more of these stories like what Jacqueline read. And now it's your turn to go get your marriage on.